Our discussion in the SEC, and this is just life in the Southeastern Conference. The University of Tennessee, 14th overall class ranking, good for 8th in the SEC. To help us break down this class, let's send it to Ryan Callahan of Vols 24/7.
A lot of interesting storylines and some highly ranked players in Tennessee's 2024 recruiting class, but to me, nothing is bigger than what Tennessee has done on the offensive line. They've really done a good job of restocking the cupboard at that position with 5 signees, potentially 6 if Jeremiah Hurd finds his way from the defensive line to offensive tackle. But some highly ranked guys, some guys with long-term potential, some guys who could maybe help in the near future. I think they really like what they've gotten done there, and that's really changed the outlook for a position group that really needed to get better. Tennessee also needed to continue to improve on defense. I think they've done that with Kellen Lindstrom and Jordan Ross at the edge rusher position, 4-star linebacker Edwin Spillman, and a few guys in the secondary they really like. One of those guys, Bu Carter, I think they're really excited about, 4-star defensive back. I think they will start him off at the star position. He was a major priority for Tennessee in-state. I think they are really excited about him. They're also excited about his teammate, Marcus Gorey, 4-star corner with verified speed, 6'1" in the mid-4.4 range. Played a lot of nickel and safety in high school, but I think they believe he can play the corner position. And then Gage Ginther as well on the offensive line. One of those offensive linemen we talked about out of the state of Colorado, not a place Tennessee recruits a whole lot. I think they believe they're getting a steal in Gage Ginther. They had to fight off Colorado to hold on to him this fall. I think they believe he can play tackle or guard. So a guy they're really excited about on the offensive line.
A lot to like in this Tennessee class. You have 2 5-stars, 21 total commits. What stands out to you if you just were to encompass this Vols class?
I like Jordan Ross, the edge rusher.
Yeah,
I think he's kind of the headliner. Sometimes you don't like doing these player comps because it's hard to find a guy. To me, he reminds us of Brian Burns, the former Florida State defensive lineman, edge rusher, linebacker, whatever you want to classify him as, who's now in the NFL. This guy can get after the quarterback, and we ranked him super high. We were kind of It's always a projection, but we were really projecting here. What is he going to look like as a senior? Checked some boxes in that department. Twitchy, he's got the length. And for me, I think that's where Tennessee needs to get better. Pass rush on the defensive side of the ball. That's going to keep them in games because we know Josh Heupel is going to score points. Nico Iamaleava is eventually going to take over as the quarterback there post Joe Milton. So they have to get some stops at some point. The best way to do it is to apply pressure to quarterbacks. I think Jordan Ross is a guy that could do that. So I'm fired up about him for Tennessee.
The significance of the recruiting battle, I think, is what stands out to me about Jordan Ross. They were going up against Florida, Georgia, and Texas, 3 other SEC schools. That's what Tennessee needs to do a little bit more of here in 2025. More Jordan Ross wins, please. I'm sure the Vols fans are hoping for.
Yeah, I'm sure Vols fans love talking about Tennessee defense because that's always a highlight. But I want to go back to the offensive side of the ball because there's just some wide receivers in this class that I know a lot of people are really excited about. Mike Matthews, in particular, 5-star wide receiver. You said it's tough to make some of these comparisons. You did make one to Rashee Rice, who's maybe a guy that fans didn't know a whole lot about, but is quickly becoming a favorite target for Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs. What is it about Mike Matthews that reminds you of his game?
I want everyone to go, well, keep this YouTube tab open. Look up Rashee Rice's highlights from his days at SMU, and then look up Mike Matthews' highlights from his senior season at Parkview High School. Both these guys, uber competitive at the catch point. They pluck the football out of the air, and I think it's the basketball background is the reason why they're able to do it. Rashee Rice played basketball in high school. Mike Matthews, prolific basketball player, offered by Mississippi State's Hoops program as a freshman, someone that was on my freaks list. There's something about Mike, and everyone on the scouting team brings this up. He kind of, you watch the tape, and you're like, are we really this high on him? And then you come away from it thinking this is one of the top receivers in the class. And initially, early on in the recruitment, some schools liked him as a safety. He has billed himself as a wide receiver, and to me, I think he makes a ton of sense at Tennessee. He can play in an up-tempo attack. He can make the catches. They're getting a good one. 4.5 on the lasers. Really impressed at the Under Armour All-America camp in Atlanta back in February. That was a loaded camp. Cam Coleman, your guy, was there. So it's a good one. And I think when you think about Nico taking over under center there, Mike Matthews is going to be a target for him. They had Nathan Leacock last cycle. Braylon Staley, I'm sure we'll talk about him, but they have some weapons at that receiver position.
I love his open field elusiveness. In the 7-on-7 setting, you only get 40 yards, right? They're only playing on half a field. but he was still making it feel like it was a 100-yard field, considering the space he was generating when I saw him out west at a 7-on-7 tournament. So he's going to be able to make those plays in a conference that's really tough to find those spaces. He's got the elusiveness and the creativity to be really impactful.
Man, and that's got to gel very well with what Josh Heupel likes to do to get his wide receivers open. You mentioned that Nico Iamaleava is the future at the quarterback position. They're adding another arm in Jake Merklinger. What does he add to that QB room?
This is the perfect take for Josh Heupel, in my opinion. 4-year starter down at Savannah Calvary Day. Nothing, what jumps out about Jake Merklinger? I'm not really sure. It doesn't have the strongest arm, okay? Isn't the best athlete, but this guy wins football games, and he has done it for 4 straight years at the high school level. It was never going to be easy to take a high school quarterback after getting one of the biggest names of the year prior to me. I think Jake can run the offense that they want to there in Knoxville. I think he could step in, and if you needed to, he's called upon. He has to come out of the bullpen. He can win games. Has a lacrosse background, and I thought as a senior, he showed some grit as a runner. Tennessee will go RPO sometimes, right? And the quarterback needs to pull it and run. Jake Merklinger can do that. I've seen him take hits. The helmet will pop off, and he's just fine. He gets up and he starts celebrating. So I like the quarterback take. I don't think enough people are talking about it. It makes a lot of sense to me. Yes, all the transfers and everything like that, but you still need to take the high school guys. Jake Merklinger, program individual, has been recruiting for Tennessee. Great find, great evaluation.
I don't want to call him a stopgap, because they got a 5-star Nico Iamaleava, but he is a top 24/7 prospect for a reason. He had 8 other SEC offers, so he's not someone that we should, like you mentioned, Andrew, is a player that we should just kind of pass over, right? Because he's going to be a player that's going to give you quality playable depth behind Nico in case anything happens, and then a player that you can bring along slowly, develop. Once he's ready, he could be a really impactful player as well.
So Mike Matthews highlights the wide receiver haul for Tennessee, but is not the only pass catcher that they're bringing in. Braylon Staley, the comparison you make to him is somebody I know Tennessee fans know and love, and that is Squirrel White. Where do you see that connection?
I was at the Shrine Bowl of the Carolinas practices. Braylon Staley, I thought that was the best guy on the field. We're talking about someone who was a state champ in the triple jump and the 200-meter dash. Every kid at the practice, it was the South Carolina practice, was just talking about how good Braylon Staley was. They said when you're that good, you can get away with stuff like that. Caught 69 passes as a senior there. And to me, he is a high volume target. And I think the combination of Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley is perfect for Tennessee. You can play Matthews on the outside. We mentioned his ball skills, ability to go get it. And then Braylon Staley, you can run the swing passes too. He can create the chunk plays. He can turn, what should be a 5-yard gain into a 15-yard gain. I think he had one of the better senior seasons here amongst the pass catchers. And we talk about all these guys up the board, right? And we've forgotten a little bit about Braylon Staley. South Carolina made a late run at him. The Gamecocks, Shane Beamer, Justin Stepp, the receivers coach, had an in-home visit. Staley decided to stick with Tennessee. I think it's a big addition because I do think he could be another Squirrel White in that offense.
And a really smart pickup for them because, like you mentioned, Andrew, he's a top 100 player, so maybe we shouldn't think about him as this afterthought or a player that maybe doesn't have an impact potential like some of these other 5-stars in this deep wide receiver class. But when you invest as much as they did in a Nico Iamaleava and you go all in and you're trying to build a program, you're going to need some complementary pieces. He's exactly what they need to pair with Mike Matthews. They can do a little bit of everything in an offense. They're going to spread it out. They're going to be able to spread the ball as well to a lot of targets. So it's huge. It's an important thing for Tennessee to continue to stockpile that room.
Especially this year, man, they went really deep into the cupboard at the wide receiver position, just so many injuries. So I know Tennessee fans are excited to get him on campus. Let's go back to the defense because they do need help there, especially in the secondary. And it seems like they've got it in Bu Carter, the number 9 safety in this class. Ryan Callahan talked about how important it was for them to hold on to this guy. I think Colorado was making a push late. But Andrew, how can Bu Carter come in and make an impact for Tennessee in a position of need?
He's up in a hard one to kind of figure out. What is he, a linebacker? Is he a running back? I agree with Ryan Callahan thinking he could be a star at the next level. I mentioned Tennessee. They need to figure out how to get stops. That is the key to the success in the SEC. Bu Carter to me is just a football player. You can play him wherever. We're going to get him hopefully at the All-American Bowl. Mr. Football was one of the Mr. Footballs there in the state of Tennessee during his senior season, made plays in all three phases. And I think really what stands out about him is just that senior season. It's so important. You look at the guys making plays on Saturdays, and a lot of them had big 12th grade campaigns. I think Bu Carter, best football is still ahead of him, which is saying a lot because he was excellent as a senior.
It's sometimes not having a position is a good thing, because then you can go in there without a scope and without this predetermined notion of like, okay, this is where you're going to fit. Especially right now in the SEC, you need that versatile defender that can play maybe some nickel, play some safety, play in the box, cover tight ends in the flats, chase down running backs. Like, he's that versatile weapon they're going to be able to use that any SEC team right now needs.